Software testing video lecturing. This is lecturing video 3, the introduction to software testing. In this video, we are going to learn the following topics. The contents are identifying the test cases, the functional versus structural debate, and errors and fault taxonomies, and the levels of testing. The levels of testing is already, we have gone through in the previous lecturing video. In this video, just the continuation part of the levels of testing will be continued. So now we will start with our explanation of how we are identifying the test cases. Basically the test cases are identified by using the two fundamental approaches. So before going through with this video, you should go with the previous video where we have discussed about the what test cases report needs to be, means the content of test cases needs to be. Like for example, the test cases should have a input, output, preconditions, post conditions, and as well as along with that it will contains the history of a test cases. That is nothing but on which date we have executed, how many number of test cases are there, which tool or a software we have used, by whom these test cases are executed. Those are all the details. So we are going to get it from the previous video. In this video, just we are going to learn about the different types of or different fundamental approaches are used to identify the test cases. So these basically two fundamental approaches are used to identify the test cases. The first one is functional testing and the second one is structural testing. These are the two fundamental approaches are used to identify the test cases. Now we will try to learn what is meant by a functional testing and as well as what is the meaning of structural testing. Under this fundamental approaches, what different types of testing technique can be applicable, that also we are going to learn in the next upcoming videos. So just we will try to learn what is meant by functional testing and what is meant by structural testing. Now I will discuss about the functional testing. The functional testing basically, when we consider any kind of program, okay, so that will we are going to map some input value, that is nothing but some set of input domains will be there, and then for that set of input domains we are expecting some expected outputs. So that kind of case we are calling it as, that may leads to this kind of testing can be done or considered under this functional testing. So in detail, the functional testing considers any program to be a function that maps a value from its input domain to value in its output domain. You can see here, I told initially, where we are giving a set of input values and as well as we are going to check the output range of that. Means the program will perform some function. For that function, we are going to map some set of input values and as well as we are expecting the output results. This leads to the term black box testing. One more word, we are also calling it as the functional testing, we can also call it as black box testing. Why we are calling it as a black box testing means, in this testing technique, the tester are unknown the contents or implementation of the program, where the functions which are considered inside the programs are there that are unaware for the testers. For example, I will tell you, there is a program for a triangle problem. If you have written a program for a triangle problem, So which language you have used for that program to write, and what different types of logic you have applied, and what are the different set of algorithms you are implemented in that code. So that are all unaware for the tester. Means I told inside the program, the content or implementation of the program is not at all known to the tester. Okay, so therefore that just the tester will give set of input domains, and he will going to check the set of output ranges. Okay, based on the input he will be expecting the output result. Based on input parameter list and output parameter list, he will going to test that particular system or a product or a software. So but he is not at all known, that is the thing, but the content which are used to implement that software, that are all unknown, or the tester will not bother about the implementation part. Okay, so that kind of testing technique we are calling it as a black box testing technique. Hope it's clear to all of you. And the function of black box testing is understood completely in terms of its inputs and as well as outputs. Means the total function of that program is there, that will be understood for the tester completely based on the inputs, means, and as well as based on the outputs. Okay, now you can see one figure. This figure will give a clear picture. Now let us consider this is the product, or we can also call it as a software. Okay, a software product, where this software product has been designed by using set of programs. That programs are nothing but there are functions are there. Okay, and as well as, so they might be used and algorithms to implement that one. Okay, so either that function or algorithms they have implemented by using a C or C++ or Java. Okay, any high level language they might be used. So and as well as they have designed this product. But the tester, so that whole, if you are a software tester, then so this particular part is there, that is that I can call it as a word implementation part or designed part, implementation or designed part by using the programs or functions or algorithms either in C program or C++ or Java, that are all unknown to whom? Unknown to the tester. Just the tester will going to test this whole system based on the set of input domains and as well as output ranges. Clear? Means he will going to give some set of input parameter list. So for these input parameter list, he will be expecting the output result. If he is getting expected output result, then there is no any bugs in this product, else there are some bugs are there in this product. This kind of testing technique we are calling it as a black box testing technique. I think it's clear to all of you. Okay, now so in the functional approach to test cases identification, the only information is used in the specification of this software. Means in the functional approach to test cases identification, the only information used is the specification of this software. For example, so the tester does not know how you have designed and what type of algorithms you have used, that are all unaware for the testers. But based on the specification details, based on the requirement specification, so the whole software has been designed. Based on that, he will be specifying the input for this particular system. So based on that only he will be identifying the test cases, and as well as he will going to design the test cases, and then he will going to check that system whether it works according to the end user requirement specification or not. Okay, that now. So the functional test cases have two distinct advantages. The first advantage is they are independent of how the software is implemented. I told what is the implementation part, how it is implemented, that are all independent. Okay, means the tester does not bothered about how this software has been implemented. So if the implementation will going to changes, the test case is still useful. Means now, for example, first time you have used some algorithm, okay, and later you are updated with the new algorithm, okay. So now what happens? The implementation has been changed from this algorithm to this algorithm, okay. Means either might be you are first time you have used a C programming concepts, then you have directly jumped to the Java or Python. But so now see here, either you may use any implementation part, that is what we are calling it as an implementation part. This implementation part may get updated or else may get changed, but still our test cases will remain same. The same test cases can be applicable for this system. Why? Because that test cases we have written based on the specification of the software, based on the requirement. So we have designed our test cases. Therefore, this is the one advantage. If the implementation part has been changed, still the test cases will remain as it is. Okay, that is the first advantage. The second advantage is the test case development can occur in parallel. Okay, means so with the implementation, thereby reducing the overall project development interval. What they are telling means this functional test cases, so we will start to write the test cases and then we will going to check the test cases along with the development team. Means parallelly when we implementation part will starts, so parallelly we are also developing the test cases and then we are going to check that implementation part. Why? Because we want to reduce the overall project development interval time. Okay. Therefore, so parallelly we can write these kind of test cases and then we can check whether the system works according to the end user requirement specification or not. That is about the functional testing technique or else functional testing technique. Then the one more point is there about the functional testing technique, that is the test cases are there, that is functional test cases frequently suffer from two problems. Means there are basically two problems are there. So first one is significant redundancies may exist among the test cases. There will be a redundancy of test cases. For example, the same set of output result we may get more number of times. That is what we are calling it as a redundancy output result, or else redundancy of test cases will be maybe existed in this functional testing technique. Therefore, this is one of the major drawback of the functional testing technique. And the second major drawback of the functional testing technique is this is compounded by the possibility of gaps of untested software. That is nothing but there might be a possibility where some of the functionalities are there that are not tested by the software. Means that there is a possibility where we cannot write the test cases for some functionalities. So that will also existed under this functional testing technique. These are the major two drawbacks which are existed under the functional testing technique. So after the drawbacks, so now we will see the figure which will going to show the result of the test cases which are identify the two functional methods. So that functional methods which are identified by, so just we will see here the two diagrams how it looks. this is the Venn diagram. Through Venn diagram I am going to explain you. So this is the specification behavior, this is the program behavior, and so now I will draw one more diagram here, one more orthogonal circle. So now you can see this is the specification, and this is the program behavior, and these are the test cases where it includes method A. I can call it as the figure method A. So now I will show you one more method, the same diagram, specification behavior, program behavior, and here tested behavior. Okay, so this is the specification, this is the program behavior, these are the test cases, and this is method B. Now you compare between these two figures where method A is there and method B is there. Method A will identifies a larger set of test cases as compared to method B. You can see here in this figure, so there is a test case figure is there. So the test case figure will basically it covers the maximum amount of the test cases we have written for the specification behavior itself only. You can see this particular circle is their orthogonal circle here, which will going to covers the specification behavior maximum, and here the number of test cases are more, then it covers maximum number of specification behavior. Similarly in the method B you can see, so here the maximum compared to method A, here less test cases are there, but it covers the specification behavior, so it will going to identify, or else test cases are there which we have written very less. Why? Because the methods are based on the specification behavior, so it is hard to imagine the methods which are identifying the behavior that are not specified. So if it is clearly specified, then we can write the more number of test cases. Means if the specification has been clearly defined, then so more number of test cases we can write it under the functional testing technique. If less amount of specification has been described to the tester, then we will going to write the less amount of test cases. Then there is a chances of huge bugs might be existed in that particular testing technique, or else in that particular product. So therefore, so from these two figures, that is method A and method B, so we can clearly define that if based on the specification behavior, functional testing test cases are depends. If a specification is clearly defined, then more number of test cases. When more number of test cases, there might be a chances of less bugs in that particular product. When similarly, when I jump to the method B, if the specification behavior, so or else specification has been defined very less, or else, so then automatically the test cases will be less. When test cases has been written based on specification behavior are less, then there might be a chances of more number of errors or bugs will be existed in your software product. Therefore, always the functional testing technique is that fully depends on the specification behavior. So if clearly the specification behavior has been understood by the tester, then he might be writing the more number of test cases. He can cover more specification behavior areas, means there is a chances of less errors will existed in the product. This is about how this total functional testing technique will works. So please remember that functional testing technique is also called it as a black box testing techniques. Why we are calling it as a black box means the implementation part of the software or a product is unknown to the tester. Therefore, we are calling it as a black box testing. Means the tester doesn't know about the implementation of the inside the product. That is nothing but software, where so the software has been implemented by using which algorithm, what data types they have used, what type of algorithms they have used, how many lines of code is existed, and then which type of language they have used. that are all unaware to the tester. Okay. So therefore, based on the specification only, the end user requirement only, so the functional testing tester will going to write the test cases. So and as well as he will try to cover the based on the specification behavior only, he will cover the number of errors or else number of bugs of the product. Okay. This is about your functional testing technique. Now we will move to the second type of fundamental approach of the testing is structural testing. So under this structural testing, so it is a totally opposite of the functional testing technique. Under this structural testing technique, basic fundamental approach is, so we are also calling it as a white box testing. Why we are calling it as a white box testing means, so the implementation part of the code is there or a product is there that is visible to the user, means that is known to the tester. So therefore, that type of testing technique we are calling it as a structural testing technique. So now I can explain in depth. The structural testing is the other fundamental approach of the test case identification, where so we are also calling it as a white box or a clear box testing. Why we are calling it as a white box or clear box testing means, so the clear box metaphor is more appropriate because the implementation is known and is used to identify the test cases. So then one more point is, that is the ability to see inside the black box, so allows the tester to identify the test cases based on how the function is actually implemented. So that is nothing but I told the structural testing, we are also calling it as a white box testing or a clear box testing. Why we are calling it as a clear box or white box means, the implementation part is there. So as compared with the black box testing, that implementation part is visible to the tester. So where he can identify the implementation part and how they have implemented, based on that he can write the test cases. Therefore, so we can also call it as, so the ability to see inside the box, what is there, how it is implemented, what type of coding technique they have used, how many line of code is there, how the data will flow in the program. Okay, that are all. So what is the path we can traverse, so in the program, that are all can be easily identified under this structural testing. So therefore, the structural testing is nothing but, it is also called it as a white box or clear box testing technique, where the implementation part is visible to the user. Okay. Now I can explain, based on the structural testing, the Venn diagram, how it looks. So the figure is there, the below figure you can see the result of the test cases which are identified. So that is nothing but the test cases which we have written, so for the structural method. Okay, where implementation part or coding part purpose we are writing, maximum we are going to cover the coding part under this testing technique. So now see the same previous figure I can show you here. This is the specification behavior. Okay, this is the program behavior, and this is the test case behavior. Okay, now this is the specification behavior, this is the program behavior, and these are the test cases. This is, I can call it as method A. Similarly, I will draw one more figure, that is for method B. Here okay, so this is specification, and this one is the program, and these are the test cases, and this is method B. Okay, now you can see, so compare the previous Venn diagram with respect to the black box testing, or else what we can call it as compared to the white box testing. The basic difference is, where we are writing the test cases for the specification behavior, Here we are writing the test cases for the program behavior. That is what major difference between that Venn diagram to this Venn diagram, previous Venn diagram which we have seen. So here, so it is clearly showing that, so you can see, so from this figure I can say this is the specification behavior part. Now this is the circle which is written for the program. Now this is the maximum number of test cases which we have covered, that covered based on the program specification, correct? How the program has written, based on the program behavior, we have written maximum test cases based on the program. Okay, therefore we are calling it as a structural testing technique. So how it is implemented, how the data path will flow, so means data will flow inside this program whenever we are giving a set of input parameter list, what is the program graph we can draw, how many loop statements are there, what type of algorithm they have implemented, how many line of codes are there, so what is the time complexity, that are all the things can be identified under this particular structural testing technique. Similarly, if more number of test cases, if the program is very clearly understandable by the tester, then he may write the more number of test cases. If the less amount of program has been written by the developer or designer, then automatically less amount of test cases has been written. You can see in this figure, these are the test cases. Okay, these test cases are less amount of programmable part has been covered by these test cases. Okay, why? Because you can see this much amount of code, for that code is not at all tested. Only less amount of code has been tested by the tester. Therefore, so why? Because these kind of cases can be occurred when the program implementation is there, that is clearly not understood by the tester, then automatically the tester will going to write the less number of test cases for that particular program. Okay, so therefore, so now you can see the method A will identifies a larger set of test cases than does method B. For both methods, the set of test cases are existed, or completely the test cases are going to cover within the program behavior. Clear? So this is about your structural testing. Generally, I will give you clear idea now. The I can call it as functional testing technique and structural testing technique. The functional testing techniques, where the maximum test cases are written for the specification behavior. So here in the structural testing technique, the maximum number of test cases has been covered by the programmable part or program behavior. Okay, now that is, we can call it as a black box testing. Here we are calling it as a white box testing. There under the black box testing, the implementation part of the software is there, that is unknown to the tester, but here it is the implementation part or a coding part or programmable part is there, that is visible to the user, that is clearly known to the tester. Therefore, the tester can write the test cases based on the program behavior. Here the tester will going to write the more number of test cases based on the specification behavior. If the specification behavior is given is not specified very clearly, then there might be a chances of more number of bugs will be existed in the specification behavior. If the program is not clearly defined, or implementation part has been not defined very clearly, then there is a chances of less number of test cases we are going to cover for the program behavior. So therefore, so these are the basic two approaches or fundamental approaches which are helps to identify the test cases. First one is so black box testing, second one is white box testing. One more word we can call it as functional testing and structural testing. So now we will see the detailed description about the structural testing. So still 2-3 points are there about the structural testing, where the structural testing is used so to identify the test coverage matrix, how much amount of program has been covered. There is a one more technique we are using under this structural testing, that is test coverage matrix. Okay, where we want to check how many number of looping statements are there, how many number of loop has been executed, what is the data when we will give some set of inputs, how the data flows. Okay, that are all. So if you want to test that can be done under the structural testing also. So basically, the structural method is there that are based on the program. Yes, it is hard to imagine these methods, so that are all identifying based on the behavior that are not programmed. Okay, means if it is programmed, then only it's possible to test that particular area or else code. If the program is particular function is not at all programmed, then it is very difficult to imagine. So for that programs, and then for writing the test cases for those kind of programs. Okay, that is a one drawback which is existed under the structural testing technique. If a set of structural test cases is relatively small with respect to the full set of programmed behavior, then automatically, why? Because so the program has been not covered properly, which is not defined, then automatically the small set of test cases will be there for the program behavior. Okay. So now I told the test coverage matrix that comes under the structural testing technique. What is meant by test coverage matrix? The test coverage matrix will going to provide a way to explicitly state the extent to which a software item has been tested. Means up to which extent we are tested that particular product or a software, that can be identified very easily under the test coverage matrix, and this is in turn so makes testing management more meaningful. Okay, means that will going to give a clear picture how much amount of program has been tested, how much amount of program is not at all tested. That can be covered under this test coverage matrix. So that will give a very clearful idea under the structural testing technique. This is about your black box and as well as white box testing technique. So now, we will have a debate with respect to the functional versus structural debate. So the functional versus structural debates will give a clear idea, that is functional testing uses only the specification to identify the test cases. Yes, so where we want to identify the test cases based on the specification under the functional testing. But in case of structural testing, so that is basically the test cases are depends on the source code of the program. That is basis on the source code we are writing the, or else we are identifying the test cases. Okay. Consider the program behavior. When I consider the structural testing technique, if all specified behaviors have not been implemented, the structural test cases will never be able to recognize these. So now concentrate here. If the program behavior is there, if the program behavior has to be based on the specification behavior, means what is specified by the end user, based on that only the program behavior should work. Okay. So in case if the specification or specified behavior is not at all has been covered by, automatically the structural test cases will never be able to recognize those which specified behavior has been left out by the programmer. Okay, that is one of the drawback which is existed under the structural testing. So now conversely, if the program implements the behaviors that have not been specified, this will never be revealed by the functional test cases. So from the Venn diagram, I have very clearly explained that even though the specification behavior has been specified, but the program behavior is not at all programmed, he has been programmed so separately, which has been not specified by the specification behavior, then the functional test cases will never reveal those area where that has been done, mistake has been done by the programmer, by the program behavior. Okay, therefore this is the one more drawback which is existed under the test cases. Now the quick answer is that both approaches are needed, that is specification behavior and program behavior. A judicious combination will provide the confidence of the functional testing and as well as measurement of the structural testing. Means, so we need both together, that is nothing but structural testing also we required, then functional testing techniques is also required. Both together we can say that which has been specified and as well as been programmed by the programmer, and as well as the test cases has been written based on these two behaviors. Then only it is complete set of, so clear picture will be given for the users. That is what functional versus test case debate. With respect to that also, there are still 3 points are there. That is, functional testing often suffers from twin problems of the redundancies and as well as gaps, which I have already explained. There is a drawbacks in the functional testing. That drawback is, so there are redundancies are there, and as well as some part of the areas which are not at all covered by the tester, and as well as which is not at all covered by the programmer to program in that particular area. Okay. So when functional test cases are executed in combination with the structural test coverage matrix, both of these problems can be recognized and as well as revealed. What I told. So if both together, if we execute it on a particular product, then easily we can reveal the problems. What type of problem has been faced by the specification behavior, what type of problems has been faced by the program behavior. Then both together we can test it and we can do the analysis on it. Okay. So below figure you can see here, this is the Venn diagram where it will explains about the program behavior, so which has been specified by the S is indicates the specification behavior, P is nothing but program behavior. The functional test cases, that is black box testing, comes under the specification behavior. The structural testing test cases we are covering under the program behavior. That is nothing but which structural test cases or white box testing techniques will identify the faults in the program behavior. So functional testing techniques will identify the faults in the specified behavior. These two are the diagram, means this particular diagram will give the clear picture. Okay. Now, so we will move with the what is meant by error and what is meant by fault taxonomies. So now under this topic, error and fault taxonomy, we are discussing about the basic difference between error means what and fault means what are the different types of errors are there, and what is the different types of faults are existed in the software testing. So the definition of an error and as well as fault, which we have gone through in the first video itself only. So just I will repeat the definition of error. Error is nothing but synonym is mistake. So human will do the mistake or people will make the mistake. That mistakes we can call it as a errors. While coding, the user or a implementer or designer will do the mistake. That mistakes we can also call it as errors. The fault is nothing but, the fault is the resultant of an error, which is we have already gone through with. The fault is a good synonym for the fault, we can also call it as, so that is defect. Okay. So now that defect is nothing but I have explained that there might be a source code defect or a hierarchical chart or data flow diagram. These are all or a narrative text, which are mode of expression where we are doing the mistakes, our execution of the mistake can be handled. Okay. So now these two are related with each other, like a fault and as well as error. So on the distinction between the process and as well as product, means there is a small difference is there between error and fault. That difference, so we are going through with the two major topic, that is one is process and one is product manner. What is meant by a process? The process is nothing but it refers how we do something. That is, so for example, when we want to produce some product, so what are all the steps we have taken to produce that produce that product? That is what we are calling it as a process. Like then product is nothing but it is the end result of that particular process. So for example, I told that when we want to produce a product to the market, so we will follow the SDLC life cycle, like requirement specification, design, implementation and test, then produce the product to the market. So this is what process we will be following for to design that particular product or else to produce that particular product. So this how we do something, like what are all the changes we are going to do in this particular phases, how we are trying to implementing that. That is what we are calling it as a process. So what type of algorithm we are using, what type of coding technique we are using, okay, so how much of time complexity we are applying, okay, that are all the things we are calling it as a process. The product is end output result of this process, we are calling it as a product. The point at which the testing and software quality assurance is there will going to meet that SQA typically tries to improve the product by improving the process. Like for example, if any bugs are there, so then we will try to identify those bugs, and as well as we are implementing the quality characteristics approach, which we have gone through in the last class. Quality characteristics are there, those quality characteristics we are trying to improve under this process itself only, okay, for that particular product. In that sense, testing is clearly more product oriented, means, so basic idea is why we are implementing or why we are applying those kind of characteristics or those kind of quality parameter means, so we want to improve the quality product, means product of the quality. Therefore, so all the testing is basically which is more related to a product oriented. So SQA is there, that is software quality assurance cell is more concerned with the reducing the errors in the development process, while testing is more concerned with the discovering of faults. So please make a difference. So basically the errors are identifying, or else we are talking about the errors during the process, or else during the development process of that particular product, we will be reducing the errors. We are trying to reducing the errors by using the SQA, that is software quality assurance team will be there. So they will give a more concern about this reducing the errors during the process or during the development of process of the product. While one more testing team is there that are concentrating more on that particular discovering the faults after a product. When the product has been produced, then they are trying to discovering any faults are there in that particular product. So that is what the major difference during the process. We are talking with respect to the word error. When it is produced that as a product to the market, that is the end process result, that we are calling it as a fault. We are identifying the bugs. Those bugs we are calling it as a fault. So both disciplines benefit from a clear definition of types of faults. Means we can clearly identify these two. So based on the different types of definitions of the faults. Okay, there are fault classifications are there. Basically, the fault can be classified. First type is based on the anomaly of occurrences. Okay, how the faults can be occurred based on the anomaly of occurrences. We are doing the classification of the fault. Please remember, this is the first classification. First one is one time only. Second one is intermittent. Third one is recurring. Fourth one is repeatable. These are the classification of faults based on the anomaly of occurrences. One time only means some of the faults will occur only one time in that particular product. So that kind of faults we are calling it as a one time. So regular, after each and every interval, so we are getting that particular error, means repeatedly that same error will be displaying after processing. Okay, so that we are calling it as a regular interval or regular interval time that faults will be occurring. Recurring is nothing but continuously that error will be appearing for the users. Repeatable means the same set of errors are repeating in the different processing stages. So that kind of faults we are calling it as a classification of faults based on the anomaly of occurrences. Now this is the second type of fault. So that is what we are calling it as a fault taxonomy, that distinguishes faults based on the severity of their consequences. Last time fault classification we have done based on the anomaly. Now based on the severity of the consequences we are classifying the faults. Now these are the 10 based on the severity we are classified. That is, we can call it as one more word, fault taxonomy. That is mild, moderate, annoying, disturbing, serious, very serious, extreme, intolerable, catastrophic, infectious. So these are the different faults which are existed That is, mild is nothing but when we will do some spelling mistakes in the particular typing, we are doing some spelling mistake, that we are calling it as a mild faults. Moderate is nothing but misleading or redundant information. If it is existed 2 times or 2 or more number of times same information is existed, then we call it as a moderate. Annoying is nothing but a truncated names. For example, so some of the after in the whenever we are writing the amount, we will put a dot and then we will put number of zeros, correct? So if you are truncating some of the information automatically, so we can call it as annoying. Disturbing, some transaction is not at all processed, then we will call it as disturbing errors or faults. Serious is nothing but lose a transaction, in between transaction failure happens, then we will lose that transaction, that is very serious issue. So then, so very serious is nothing but incorrect transaction execution. For example, whenever you are doing a transaction, so by knowingly unknowingly, so you are transferring amount from one account to another account, whatever your expected destination account is there, so instead of going to deposit that destination account, if it is deposited with some other account, then we will call it as a incorrect transaction execution. So this is what we are calling it as a very serious fault. Extreme is nothing but frequent, that is nothing very serious. Continuously the same thing is happening, then we will call it as extreme. Intolerable is nothing but database corruption. While updating the information in your account or transaction, so there is a corruption in the database updation is nothing but, then we will call it as a intolerable. Catastrophic is nothing but when we are doing something, automatically the system shutdown happened, then we will call it as a catastrophic fault. Then infectious is nothing but shutdown that spreads to others also. Means while one system is automatically shut down, then other system will also get affected to with respect to that, then we will call it as infectious. Okay, that is nothing but either due to virus or else due to any intolerable things. If happens, automatically the system will goes down. When system will shut down, automatically other system will also get reflected by using those who are using that system. Okay, these are all some second set of fault taxonomy or classification which we have defined. There is a one more classification is there of a fault, that is based on the IEEE standard classification. So we can call it as, that is software anomalies. So IEEE has been classified the faults based on this software. Okay, so when especially when we are producing the product as a software product, when we are producing to the market, then so we need to go through with all the IEEE standard faults. We need to identify those IEEE standard classification of faults. Based on that, so first one is input output fault, second one is logic fault, third one is data fault, fourth one is computation faults, then last one is interface faults. These are the some different set of IEEE standard classification of the faults are there that we need to identify before producing that product to the market. Like input output faults are nothing but correct input not accepted, incorrect input accepted, description of the wrong or missing description if you have described, then parameters are wrong or missing parameters are there, then the output is printing in the wrong format or wrong result is giving as output result, then incomplete or missing result we are getting, then spurious results are giving, then is there any grammar or spelling mistakes are there. These are all types of faults, we can call it as input output faults. Similarly, logic fault, data fault, and as well as computation faults and interface faults are there. When we are IO timing is there, incorrect interrupt handling, call to wrong procedure, when we will be writing the code, in the code there is a interface faults may occur. Okay, that is parameter mismatch will be occurred, then automatically it will not trigger the output result, then incompatibility data types are matching. Okay, then we are generating the output result, wrong output result. So these are all we can call it as a different types of IEEE standard faults we have to identify in our software product. This is about the types of faults. Basically it is split into 3 categories based on the IEEE format, based on the anomaly occurrences, and as well as based on the severity. So we have classified our faults. Then the last topic is levels of testing. This figure will going to give a clear picture, which we have already discussed about this picture. That is a V model of a software development life cycle, where each and every levels of testing will go and echo with the test cases. Like for example, requirement specification is there. So then requirement specification will be identified based on end user requirement, what type of system he want. Okay, that will go into test under the based on the user requirement specification. We are writing the system testings. Okay, then so preliminary design is there. That is, preliminary design is nothing but for that we are going to check the integration testing also. Then detailed design will be done by the unit testing. Then we are checking the coding. So once again there is a system testing, integration testing, and that are all the test cases we are writing very clearly. Now from this figure we can emphasize the correspondence between the testing and as well as designing levels. So we can identify very easily testing level and as well as designing levels from the figure. In terms of functional testing, the three levels of definitions are there. That is specification, preliminary design, and detailed design. These three are comes under the functional testing. Okay, so that is correspond directly to the three levels of the test cases, like system, integration, and unit testing. This total with respect to that designing specifications are there. That test cases we are calling it as a functional testing technique. The basic structural testing is the most appropriate at the unit level. So where in the unit level, so we are going to check the coding part. Okay, so while functional testing is the most appropriate at this system level, that is nothing but, so when the system is ready, then also we are doing a structural level, unit level. Okay, so coding part will be tested, like what type of algorithm you have used. Okay, is there any functional mistakes are there, any bugs are there, like compilation error, runtime error, call by reference, parameter, is there any kind of that kind of errors are existed, then it will be identified under the unit testing. Then integration testing and system testing will also cover under the structural testing. So that is what, so basic idea about the levels of testing of where we are applying the functional testing and where we are applying the structural testing. So when we are designing, parallelly we are applying the functional testing. So and as well as once the coding part has been done, then we will apply the structural testing. Okay, either in the unit level or system level, appropriate level, we are applying the respect to the testing cases, and we are writing the test cases, and we are checking the code whether it works according to the end user requirement specification or not. So I think the constructs defined for the structural testing will make the most sense that at the unit level itself only, whether so that coding part or a programmable part which will going to specify the requirement specification or not. That is, user requirement specification is there, that we are going to met or not. And similar constructs are only now becoming available for the integration and system level of testing also. Okay, so this is about the level of testing based on the functional testing and as well as structural testing, where we are using functional testing in the V model or else in the SDLC lifecycle model, and where we are using the structural testing technique. Okay, so that's clear. That's all. So all the topics so which we are there in the content, so from the start, so I have covered it. Hope it's clear to all of you. Okay, thank you.